David Quessenberry has been in the NFL for 11 years, and my goodness, he has earned every single one of them. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day, each and every day. I appreciate my hashtag everydayers, especially here in July when you're getting the whole Everman Series. Appreciate you all so very much. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Luke. I'll be your host. You can find the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts, whether it is any audio listening app or even Amazon Fire and Roku if you download the Locked On Minnesota Sports app. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today is another entry into the Everman Series, and I want to take you to a scene in 2017. There's this tradition in chemotherapy places where when you're done with your treatment, there's a little bell that you get to ring that says, "I'm done, I did it, I beat cancer." And in 2017, a guy walks out and rings that bell so hard that it breaks. And when you hear about everything that led up to it, it's really hard to blame him. David Quessenberry was a San Diego area recruit that everyone completely overlooked. He was a tight end in high school, played a little defense, but nothing to write home about on defense. And he was too skinny to play O-line at college and too slow to play tight end. He was this weird tweener. He was like 235 pounds, and nobody could really figure out what they wanted to do with him, so he didn't get any scholarship offers. Not one. He still sent his tape out to other colleges trying to get an opportunity. And to his chagrin, he was completely overlooked. It's Southern California. It's a really competitive market. There's a ton of kids. There's a ton of schools. And so in that recruiting world, he was met with a lot of silence. However, he did get the attention of the head coach at San Jose State, who saw at least a kid that knew what he was doing, right? And said, the size, the speed, the physicality is weird. But if we can get a little bulk on this guy, I think maybe there's a tackle here. He saw the kind of the sculpture in the rock. So he tells David Quessenberry, you can come to San Jose State. Can't give you a scholarship, but we can give you a preferred walk-on and good luck. He will take that opportunity and he'll take it to heart. If you ask him now, look, this was a while ago, but if you ask him now, he says, what he had to eat to gain that weight. And over his first year, he will gain 60 pounds. A lot of meat, a lot of maybe not so great stuff, a lot of everything. And he basically lives in the weight room. He puts the weight room to the test, trying to bulk up and become the body type that every college didn't think he could be. And it's always funny when we run into these in this series because, again, there's a survivorship bias, right? We only do the Everman Series about players that ultimately made it. So anytime we're on this series and we're talking about a kid that wasn't highly recruited, I always think about how many other kids, maybe if they had just gained a little weight, would have actually been an NFL level prospect that would have ended up at like Akron State or something like that. It's like it becomes a lot easier doing this series to envision why you get small school prospects. The answer to the age-old question, well, if this guy is so good enough to be in the NFL, why is he at San Jose State? And the answer is because recruiters thought he was a tweener, and they were just wrong about that. He does enough work to get in the building. He's a redshirt freshman. He plays a little bit on punts, on the punt blocking unit. That's about it, or like punt protection. But it's quickly apparent that with his newfound size and the right body type that you're looking for, okay, this guy's got the juice. The summer before his sophomore year, he will earn a scholarship, but he does play a lot without scholarship. And he actually wins an award later in college for like being one of the best non-scholarship players in the FBS. he plays well enough to get a little NFL attention. By the time he's a senior and he graduates and it's time to go out for the NFL draft, he waits and waits and waits for that NFL Combine invite, but it doesn't come. He will instead go to the Senior Bowl, and that's kind of part of what the Senior Bowl is for. A lot of the people that have the most to gain at the Senior Bowl are people who aren't going to be at the Combine, and so they really are going to go attack it. And the Senior Bowl turns out to be very fortuitous for Quessenberry in particular. It's interesting that year at the Senior Bowl, a lot of guys get hurt on the offensive line, so it was kind of a thin group that year, which meant that Quessenberry had to play a bunch of positions that he didn't play necessarily in college, or he didn't play as much in college. And he has this versatility to be able to play all of those positions, and it gives him an opportunity to showcase this. In this sort of hyper-competitive world where, the guy next to you might be the guy that takes your draft slot, it is sort of a zero-sum game. Somebody gets hurt, and that's terrible news for them, but it's great news for you. That versatility gets him on NFL radars enough. If you show that you have, the versatility to be a swing backup, which is basically Quessenberry's identity right now, is swing tackle. If you have the versatility to do that, then yeah, teams are going to have a much easier time throwing a day 3 pick at you. Oh, and by the way, you've grown up a little bit more now, and your body type is right, so everything looks great. So 6th round, he gets drafted by the Houston Texans. I want to take a minute to just reflect on how far we've come here, from preferred walk-on to, starting lineman at San Jose State who plays well enough to actually get drafted and maybe be part of somebody's depth plans. That's a long way to come. And we've got a lot more journey to cover here, but I just want to take a second and appreciate, wow, that is a lot of progress, both in kind of reshaping your body and reshaping your game and showing NFL teams that maybe you've got something to you. And yet, it is as precarious as ever. He is a 6th round draft pick that comes with no guarantees, right? Like there's the literal contract guarantees, but you know what I mean? Like that doesn't guarantee you a roster spot by any stretch of the imagination. It's not being a walk-on where if you have a bad couple of practices, the team is just going to forget about you entirely. And now you just are paying for college and not really doing a sport or anything. Your life is just veered off into a totally different track. I would compare a walk-on to being an undrafted free agent, right? Where you're kind of just the best of the rest. Being a draft pick, there is some investment in you. There is already some message that the Houston Texans have sent that said, we like you enough to spend a resource on you. But it is as precarious as ever. Early in Quessenberry's first year, he hurts his foot and ends up on IR for that season, and that's just the start of his problems. The hardest part is what comes next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It's a social media website where you can find your new hires. So if you are the kind of person who is in charge of hiring and LinkedIn understands what you're going through, how hard that is and how that's probably not your main job, and they want to give you a lot of tools to help. But it's also there are a lot of prospective employees that are just on LinkedIn that you won't find on any other job boards. Over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you want access to those people, you've got to go to LinkedIn. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring, and they have all kinds of stuff that can help you make the hiring process easier, a feature that helps you write job descriptions and all that. So go check out some of those features and just take advantage of the giant pool of candidates. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. When you're done here, go check out for your second listen, Locked On Minnesota Sports. The Locked On Minnesota Sports podcast feed has the Minnesota Football Party on it, which I'm on 2 days a week. There's also roundtables, Timberwolf, Twins postcasts, all kinds of stuff. So go check that out. But now I want to take you back into the Everman Series for David Quessenberry. I want to take you to the summer of 2014. It's June-ish, May-ish, kind of OTA season, and the workouts are starting to feel weird for David Quessenberry. He's losing stamina. He's like struggling to finish them in a way he never has before. He's got this persistent cough that he, it's easy to write that off right away, but then it doesn't go away. And then you go to the doctor and you get a biopsy and they come back and they tell you you've got lymphoma. To be specific, he's got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and the T-cell variant of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. As far as cancers go, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is one of the more survivable ones. But if you compare it to like pancreatic cancer, like lung cancer, skin cancer, right? That's a fairly common one, and it's one that they have an easier time treating. However, he's got the T-cell variant, which is a very aggressive variant. So it's curable, but it's going to suck extra. And even if he does get out of this, he's going to have to spend a lot. I mean, this is not the kind of thing you get rid of in a couple months. This is going to be a long, daunting journey. It's going to be a nightmare every single day of chemo radiation symptoms. And on the other end of it, assuming you get to the other end of it, you're going to have lost weight. You're not going to be in football shape at all. Getting back to a football playing bill of health is a distant dream. That likelihood is kind of what keeps David Quessenberry going. It's almost spiteful. It's almost like looking cancer directly in the face and saying, you won't take anything from me. I am going to beat you, and then I'm going to get right back to where I was. And getting back to the NFL, taking the field, being part of a 53-man roster again, that's the goal. And that is the motivator that keeps him going. If you ask about this today, if you ask him about this, and, Lindsey Young, when he signed with the Vikings, Lindsey Young did a great article. I'll link it in the show notes. Please yell at me if I forget. Lindsey asked about this and said, what advice do you have for people who are going through a fight with cancer right now as someone who survived it? And he says, it's a very, it's about the journey, not the destination kind of thing. If you are just looking for the day when you get to ring the bell, you'll go crazy because it feels so far away. For him, it would be a 3-year battle. That's forever, especially when every day is a waking nightmare. 3 years is forever. And so for him, the key to survival, just like mentally, wasn't about counting down the days. It was about learning how to take each day and survive it, and learning how to get good at the days so that you didn't have to, anxiously count them all down. And it's not unlike rehabbing from an injury, where learning that patience and learning how to really attack it and do it right and be kind of kind to yourself, even though you're not doing all the stuff you usually do, is it's this very specific kind of patience that only that experience is teaching some of these guys. The support system is big too. Family is big. This is a great pick in another article that I used to craft this, which is from ESPN about his fight with cancer with his two brothers. So his brother Paul went to Navy and played Navy, and they actually played each other a couple times. It's very good. There's a very military family, a long history of Quessenberries joining the military. And there's actually a point in his recruitment when he's in the pre-draft where he's going I don't know if I'm going to make it to the NFL at all. I mean, you're not even making it to, you don't even get to go to the scouting combine, right? So you're like a day 3 pick, and it's well, if I don't make the team for a couple years, I'm out of this. What's next? He's probably going to go join the military. At that time, an 11-year NFL career was not fathomable, and this is well before all the cancer stuff. But, joining the Navy and honoring that family tradition is a big one, and his brothers and he are still close. His brother Paul and his other brother Scott, who has an NFL career of his own. There's this great picture of the two brothers that have visited him, and they've clearly shaved their heads and kind of done the thing. But also the support system that comes from the team. And there's two major figures I guess I want to go over. One is Bob McNair, owner of the Texans. Bob McNair, for decades, has been on and off with skin cancer. And so he fully understands what David Quessenberry is going through. And when he gets a diagnosis and the treatment starts, Bob McNair takes the time to actually visit David Quessenberry and says, hey, I know what you're going through, and I want to tell you that the Texans aren't going to abandon you. The Texans are going to stick by you until you are through this. And I don't care. And as he's like, I don't care what it costs the team. I don't care that it's like what it means for the roster or whatever. Like, we're with you here. He will end up for a while on like a waived reserved kind of list. He's on like the reserved non-football illness and stuff, and he'll get waived for all that. But he will make good on that promise ultimately. The Texans stay by him the entire time. And he actually grows a little closer to Bob McNair over all of this stuff. And then the second one is Mike Vrabel. And Mike Vrabel observes what Quessenberry does with the organization. Vrabel's the Texans' defensive coordinator at the time. And he sees Quessenberry in O-line meetings kind of becoming a de facto coach for these years and still taking the time, even in the worst feeling you can imagine, he's taking the time to still help the team. And this really leaves a mark on Mike Vrabel, who sees this and really has this admiration for it. There are a lot of people rallying around him, and it's something that he remains thankful for to this day. So when 2017 comes, he goes into remission in 2015, but he still has to continue chemotherapy for 2 more years. There is no way he's going to play football for those 2 years. So he's ready when, after 3 years of fighting this, almost exactly, I think, he gets to ring that bell. And he rings it so hard that the thing falls to the ground. Can you blame him? Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by FanDuel. With camp around the corner, it might be time to go check out an NFL futures bet. You can also check out some of the live bets on WNBA games or MLB games, but if you're like me and you're just like majorly into football, you can go find a futures bet. You can go bet on the over-under for the Vikings, I think is 7.5 wins. You can go bet on something like a Justin Jefferson over-under, which is at 1,300.5 yards. Whatever you want, you can gamble on it. Go find it at FanDuel.com. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NFL. David Quessenberry will return to the Texans for the 2017 season, which was a wild one for Houston, because that was the one where they got hit by that big hurricane. I think it was Harvey, and actually lost access to their stadium, I think, for the first week. So crazy time in the Houston Texans world, and a crazy time for David Quessenberry, who is retaking the football field and actually getting back to a chance to make an NFL team. Now, his goal throughout all of this cancer stuff was to make a 53-man roster. And unfortunately, he won't make the roster in 2017. But that promise from Bob McNair, I think, is still kept, right? The Texans stayed with him throughout his whole cancer thing, and hey, you got back on the field. They're not obligated to roster him, right? But now it was on merit. It was after a true camp battle, an honest-to-God evaluation. And if he's going to get cut, he's getting cut like everybody else gets cut. And I think that there is already something to be proud of in that. And it's not like he's getting, kicked to the curb or anything like that. He's on the practice squad. He's going to stay in the building. And he'll spend the whole year on the practice squad. He'll get activated that December, and he'll actually take the field for the first time in relief duty, of all days, on Christmas, 2017. He gets that. He gets on a 53-man roster in December, but he gets to actually go out there and play. What a Christmas present for the guy that has been out of football for 3 years fighting lymphoma. It is an emotional version of what he really is here to do, which is be a swing backup, which is precisely that, to show up in relief duty in December when somebody's body finally gave out on them. That is not a sexy job, but it is one that NFL teams do covet. And now that he's, been in the league for 2 seasons, we'll call it, and 3 out of it. But 5 years, now he's starting to get the label of like a veteran swing guy. But unfortunately, it won't help him make the team in 2018. He'll get cut by the Texans in 2018, and this time he gets picked up on waivers by Mike Vrabel's Tennessee Titans. Told you, left an impression on him. That is a team that really sticks by him for who he is and what he does post cancer, right? There is no more working on potential from this kid from San Jose State. That's a long time ago. He's still only a practice squad guy in Tennessee for that year, but he's starting to kind of stabilize a career. He'll stay there for the whole year. He'll do a futures deal. And then he actually gets in a little bit on the 2019 Titans. And this is that Marcus Mariota era of the Titans where they were actually kind of like a little bit getting somewhere. I think that 2019 was the year they made the AFC Championship game with Greg Joseph as kicker. Remember that run? Crazy fun run for the Mike Vrabel Tennessee Titans, kind of the peak of them. But even with like a full-throated support of the head coach, you're still kind of a journeyman. You're a journeyman flyer a little bit. You're a guy with a kind of weird story, and you're worth a shot, but you are much closer to the I'm a walk-on freshman status than I'm a draft pick status. And essentially, Quessenberry has had to earn his keep over and over and over and over again since he got out of high school, whether it was, earning his scholarship at San Jose State and then just trying to make the team as a day 3 pick, and then just trying to make the team as a guy coming off of a 3-year battle with cancer, and then on his second team doing the same thing. But he'll actually get playing time in 2019, including an actual touchdown reception on a trick play. So that's fun. In 2020, because of COVID year stuff, he's on and off the active roster because the rules all changed, so he's bouncing up and down like a lot of people do. But by 2021, not only is he fully on the 53-man roster like he set out to do, he is a starter. In 2021 Tennessee Titans have David Quessenberry starting right tackle all year long. But that will be the last year that he is in Tennessee. The Titans will move on for 2022. The Bills sign him to be depth. And now he's sort of found this different balance where you're not the captain and the starter that you were when you were younger, but he's not like a roster level guy anymore. He's just kind of solid depth. And he'll play a little bit as depth for the Buffalo Bills. And then he has, of course, his stint with the Vikings where he plays a little bit as well. But now he's the elder statesman. And thinking back to, junior year of college going, I don't know if I'm going to make the NFL or not. Hey, I wonder if I should join the Navy. We're a long ways away from that. And he's made a lot of money. He's accomplished a lot. He has battled through a lot. And yet, you're still in this world where a bad camp could get you cut. And that is the cruelty of the NFL, no matter what your story is, no matter how much you've proven your bona fides. Every August, you got to prove them again. And that's what David Quessenberry will set out to do when he takes the field, which is right around the corner. It's right around the corner. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. And as always, Skol.